Brian Dean Wright is a Democrat, a former CIA officer, and he joins us. So I can't get past this, Brian. Not that and I know we put clips up of politicians nodding in their bovine way, agreeing with whatever ludicrous conspiracy is out there. But that's what they do. They're not geniuses. They'll say whatever it takes. But the head of the CIA and the head of the FBI ought to be sober, restrained, wise people. And now we know they're not. How did this happen?
Well, you would think that they would have been, but they violated not only their oath to the country, but their oath to fellow officers such as myself. I mean, we are taught very explicitly that you don't violate that line between America's politics and the intelligence community. Brennan and Clapper and Comey, all three of them have done it. But if you step back, I think there are a couple of things happening why Democrats are falling for these kinds of hoaxes. The Brennans and the Clappers, that stuff, that's coup d'etat stuff. If you look at liberal journalists, like why do progressive journalists do this? It's about money, right? It's more of stories about bad orange man mean bigger, clicks and views, and that means bigger money and book deals and so forth, right? And then Democratic politicians, why are they doing it? Well, more of that stuff means more fear. That means panic, hysteria. That brings in donations, and that brings in votes. So that's the short answer to your question. But actually, Tucker, I think there's something bigger happening here that actually is more frightening to me. And that is, as a party, we are telling you through these hoaxes that you are a victim, right? Whether it be the Smollett case, the Covington kids, right? If you are a victim, then you belong to us. And even if you haven't been a victim, you will be at some point. So that, I think, is the underlying issue. Since we have embraced identity politics, we have to get people to the polls based on fear, on panic. And that's the stuff that, look, Trump will be gone in 2 or 6 years, right?
Right.
The Democratic Party, what it is creating, its coalition, how it gets people to the polls. If we're telling people that they have to be victims, then we have to believe these stories about Smollett or the Covington kids. That's the issue that's not going to go away, that's going to be part of the Democratic Party, and I hate to say this, but a part of the nation for a generation to come. Because we're telling people, don't think critically, don't think for yourself, just say what you should say when a person of color or a gay person or a woman says that they've been a victim. Just automatically believe them. Stop thinking. That's what the Democratic Party is becoming, and it is horrific.
So what will happen? I mean, we're not at war right now and there's no financial crisis, but we will be and there will be, because that's just the nature of running the world's most powerful country. And so when there is a lot of outward pressure applied on this country and society is really tested, its cohesion is really tested, I mean, what's it going to look like when people immediately retreat into their tribes and rely on conspiracy theories to explain things?
Yeah, you need a national identity to get through those moments, isn't
yes,
it?
exactly.
But I have to tell you, we already are at war. I mean, those of us in the intelligence community know we are in a covert war against the Chinese government. Unquestionably, it's been happening for about 10 years. It's only going to become, a greater and greater, more obvious problem to those who don't know. But I'm telling you, I work with folks in the military, the intelligence community. We all know it's happening. So we have to get ready now for this. It's already happening. So what will occur in the next 5 or 10 years when it becomes more overt? And we have spent the past 2 and how many knows, more years focused on, well, what did the Mueller report really say? And then it was redacted, but so now we need it unredacted. But now, I mean, it's never ending. I mean, we might as well be looking for Hitler and Jimmy Hoffa opening up a bed and breakfast in Argentina. I mean, so that's what we're doing right now. That's what and we're not preparing for the things that matter. And as a Democratic Party, why don't we just put behind the Mueller thing? It's done. It's solved. Now let's have the reasonable conversation of, is Trump the best that we can do for this country now and moving forward? That's a great debate. Right. Let's have that.
It is,
but
and it's
conspiracy crap.
It's a winnable debate. He's a Russian agent, not winnable.
Yes.
I would say. Brian, thanks very much for that. Very wise. Your point about China is something we should meditate on.
Former House Oversight Chairman, Committee Chairman, and Fox News contributor Trey Gowdy. Good evening to you, sir. Good to see you this evening.
Yes, ma'am.
So what was your reaction to that? I mean, that's an ugly exchange. It's not the kind of thing that you see often on Capitol Hill. What do you think?
Well, the process is unprecedented. We had a lot of bad days the 8 years I was there. We never had a day where we all asked a chairman to step down. The substance is what really caught my attention, Martha. There's only one campaign that took negative information from Russia. There's only one campaign that actually paid for that information. Remember in the Barr letter, The summary that Barr sent, despite multiple opportunities, no evidence of collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia. And yet Fusion GPS and the Clinton campaign was actually spending money to dig up Russian dirt on Trump. And for Adam I've never heard him address that. I've heard him talk about the Trump Tower meeting where nothing happened, but I've never, in fact, he went to court to keep us from finding out about Fusion GPS. So I think he'd be taken a little bit more seriously if every once in a while he acknowledged the only campaign that took information from Russia was the campaign he supported.
All right, so now to the report itself, which we're learning is over 300 pages. There's all kinds of estimates, but it's a lengthy report. When you look at other reports, the Starr report, it's sort of in line with what we have seen in the past, though. But a lot's being made of the size of this document. What do you think?
Honestly, I thought it was kind of short. The report.
Yeah, so did I. 2 years, 300 pages.
I mean, I'm reading Crime and Punishment right now. I wish it were only 300 pages. It's like 1,000 pages. I thought, given the amount of time, the witnesses they interviewed, the search warrants, the subpoenas, I expected something longer. Perhaps the collusion section is not that long, and then the what Russia did to us as a country is longer, but I expected it to be longer.
And what about the release of the report? 'Cause, you know, Jerome Nadler asked for it, the chairman of the committee. He wanted it by April 2nd. He said that was a hard deadline. He had, I guess, about a 10-minute conversation with the Attorney General, Bill Barr, who said it may take longer than that. What about the time frame?
Yeah, I actually, you know, Mueller and Barr, what the Democrats are asking Mueller and Barr to do is actually to break the law. They cannot disseminate grand jury material. They cannot disseminate classified information. Imagine how much sources and methods and otherwise classified information is in the Mueller report. If he did a good job, and I suspect he did, it is chock full of classified information. So you got to scrub it. You got to scrub the grand jury material. I'm in a really small group of people that actually doesn't think the report should be made public, because the Department of Justice is a true false agency. You either indict or you do not indict. But you don't do Oppo research and then turn it over to someone like Adam Schiff, which is all he wants. He just wants any kernel of negative information about President Trump so he can use it in 2020.
So you have talked about the fact that you would like to see some investigation, and there are ongoing investigations into what happened on the other side of the equation, how this whole thing got started, how they had the FISA applications go through. Here is an exchange between you and the former CIA director, John Brennan, back in May of 2017 with regard to the Steele dossier. Watch.
Do you know whether any of the underlying allegations made in the Steele dossier were ever tested, probed, examined, cross-examined?
There were efforts made by the Bureau to try to understand whether or not any of the information in that was valid, but I don't have any firsthand knowledge of it.
Do you know if the Bureau ever relied on the Steele dossier as part of any court filings?
I have no awareness.
Looking back at that now, and also in light of John Brennan's voluminous statements that he was sure that there were indictments coming down. He said that as late as March 8th, and now he says that maybe he got bad information. What do you think?
Maybe. Maybe he put out bad information. Maybe he's the reason that the dossier was included in the intelligence community's assessment in late 2016, early 2017, that was ultimately leaked and spawned this. I mean, I had to be cryptic there because it was not publicly known that there was a FISA. Now the whole world knows there was a FISA, and what the whole world, I hope, will someday learn is the FBI had made no efforts to corroborate or vet the information even as late as December of 2017, well after it had been used in the FISA, and the FBI still had made no effort. So, you know, Brennan's animosity towards the president is so manifest. So is Comey's right now. But to think that this guy was running an intelligence agency with the amount of animus he has towards President Trump is sobering.
Judge Napolitano was on earlier today, and he said this. Let's play it, and I'll get a quick response for you, and then we got to go.
I think that Congressman Schiff is correct. In that report will be evidence of the existence of a conspiracy. In that report will be evidence of obstruction of justice, interfering with an FBI investigation for a personal gain, but not enough evidence to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt.
Do you agree with that?
I don't know, and I hope Judge Napolitano also said, and the reason that law enforcement agencies don't release reports is for that very reason. If you're not going to charge them, I mean, imagine if every law enforcement agency said, look, we didn't have enough information to charge you, but we're going to go disseminate all the negative stuff we learned. We don't do that in this country. You're presumed innocent. If you want to remove that presumption of innocence, take them to court. Don't release a report.
Trey Gowdy, thank you very much, sir. Good to see you tonight.
The House voting today to file a lawsuit against the president's executive order declaring a national emergency at the southern border. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi saying, quote, the president's sham emergency declaration and unlawful transfer of funds have undermined our democracy. With me now, Louisiana Republican Senator Bill Casey. Senator, thanks for joining us. This was the tactic that the Democrats used, of course, for most of last year, early this year. Subsequently, though, what the American public has seen, what the world has seen, is a crisis of the magnitude that everyone acknowledges is an emergency.
I agree with that totally. The president speaks both of the drugs. He's previously spoken of the human trafficking and obviously of the folks coming in caravans from Central America. It is an emergency. It is a crisis. I think we need to all be on board in terms of staunching this flow, if you will.
Sir, other than lawsuits and finger pointing, isn't this the ultimate opportunity for both sides of the aisle to say, hey, let's come together, maybe come up with the ultimate solution, put everything on the table once and for all, and get it resolved? Now is the moment where everyone's watching what's happening down there, and everyone, to a degree, is ashamed that we haven't fixed this yet.
I agree with that premise. I'm not sure everyone, though, would. Keep in mind, some on the left wish to abolish ICE. They wish to have open borders. Now, I would like to think, Charles, that everybody is on the same page on this, but everyone is not. That said, your point is well taken. There's been money appropriated. There's been programmatic programs put into motion. We need to obviously allow those to go as expeditedly as possible, but I do think there's more, and this would be a great time for Democrats to decide to cooperate with Republicans.
With respect to President Trump potentially closing the border, where do you stand right now on there?
You know, I think that could be counterproductive in the sense that right now our caravans are coming from Central America. But what we've learned is that in terms of Mexico, it's not from Mexico. And when you ask the Mexicans why not, they say the economic development that has occurred in the northern part of Mexico gives us stickiness. Despite the violence, Mexicans stay in Mexico because there's economic opportunity. I don't want to thwart that economic opportunity that has addressed the issue of Mexican immigration as we attempt to staunch the flow from Central America.
So I want to change course here because a big news story this week, of course, is President Trump saying that your party will address replacing Obamacare after the election. Where are we right now with respect to improving our health care system, a topic that right now resonates as the #1 in this country?
Yeah, I've got about, I don't know, maybe as many as 10 different bipartisan bills that would benefit everybody no matter what your health care. For example, price transparency helps the person on Medicare as well as the person with commercial insurance. Lowering drug prices helps the person who is on Medicaid because taxpayers pay less. I could go on. Republicans clearly have a vision. It is to give power to the patient. I would argue the Democrats have a vision, and that is to have power over the patient, requiring them to give up their commercial insurance to go to Medicare for all. So there will be that debate going forward. In the meantime, we lay the foundation for success after 2020.
Senator Cassidy, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you.